Again, good morning and good afternoon. So we would like to start our webinar as of today, and we will start with an outlook into 2025. The year's first event will be the RIMS in Chicago, which will take place in early May, where we will also host a TSC appreciation dinner, and we hope to see everybody there on Cinco de Mayo, which is May 5th. The second event in today's TSC's world will be our Global Network Forum. That will take place from June 23rd to June 25th in Hamburg. So certainly we also hope to see you at our Global Network Forum in Hamburg. Look, for the first time in 3 years, we have been actually in more than that, I would say in a little bit more than a year, we have seen things changing in Argentina. And that's one of the reasons why we actually have also featured that today. So by new tariff rules with goods imported to the US recently implemented by new administration, keep many of our clients busy in the US and all around the world. We also feel we want to actually feature some very good example how things can be made available and how things can go for a better change in the economies, how actually has been done in Argentina. So, and again, this is a very good transition. And we like today is feature the country Argentina. It's about the recent political and economic changes there, and we have chosen to present this country because of an amazing economic turnaround, which in many ways has been also be given kudos to Javier Milei, who is the new president of Argentina, sworn in about 50 months ago. So now I'm pleased to introduce you to our long-standing partner in Argentina, Magna Seguros. And we have today with us Timothy Maitland, who is the director of the international division of Magna Seguros, many years also partner with us, and I know him for many years myself. So he will provide you with an overview of the country, its economy, and recent political changes. In addition, he will introduce us also to the Argentine insurance markets and will tell us a little bit more about his company, the history, and their servicing capabilities in case you have a client who is willing and ready to invest into Argentina and starting up operations there. So for housekeeping, we will send you copies of the presentation after the session, so there is no need for you to note anything unless you really want to. So regarding questions, please send us questions and we will answer those after the panel discussion. If for whatever reason you think there is something you want to actually put in right away, there is the chat option available here in this feature, so you can also make this available to Timothy and myself during the session. So it's a Q&A function, which you will see at the bottom of, in the middle of the Zoom thing. So yeah, right now, I think it's a really good time to really start off with a little quiz, little poll would like to take and see whether you know a little bit about Argentina and what your expectations are. So here we have the first question. And the first question is, who has won the last World Cup in soccer, European football? So yeah, I'm looking forward. I see one. Okay, great. Yeah, there's one. Yeah. Anybody else? Great. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's so I don't want to go too far into it, and I see already four. Like yeah, everybody's marking it right on the poll, and I think we're happy to see this. So yeah, it's been Argentina. So Argentina has actually won the last World Cup, so which is really great. And so yeah, everybody actually we have 100% quote on actually the poll right here, so which is really amazing, right? So then that's really great. And on the second questions, who was elected as a new president for Argentina in December 2023? We also have a 100% mark. So that's really great, and I think that is really giving now basically the background to allow Timothy to start to tell us more about Argentina. So Timothy, I think we're very curious, and Timothy, you have provided us with a nice presentation, which I hope everybody can see right now. So the floor is yours.
Okay, then. Well, thanks for the introduction, Christian, and well, pleased to be able to make this presentation. I probably know some of you, present at this webinar, and for those I don't, well, I'm happy to meet you. As Christian said, my name is Timothy Maitland-Herriot. I've been in the insurance industry for 44 years now, and it's been 14 years since I assumed as director for the international division here at Macro. So to tell you a little bit more about Argentina, well, we have this beautiful photograph as an initial slide. These are the Iguazu Falls, which are up in the northeastern province of Misiones, which borders with Brazil and Paraguay. And if you've never been there, it's certainly a place that I would recommend that you go and visit. It's a beautiful place. When discussing the initial photograph with Christian, we said, like, what should we put there? Should we put the falls? Should we put the Pope, who's also Argentine, and maybe Messi holding the World Cup? But that would be boasting. So we said, no, we better leave that behind. So anyway, a little bit about Argentina. These are demographics. We have an average estimated population of 40 million people. Well, not a very high growth rate of 0.9% annually, and a population density of 16 people per square kilometer, which, if you look at in this slide, we're all concentrated around the big cities. Buenos Aires concentrates by far the largest amount of people, having 15 million people in the metropolitan area. This is the city of Buenos Aires and the suburbs. Then other important cities are Rosario and Córdoba. But Argentina is there's a lot of farmland, and that's why the concentration is mainly around the cities. Regarding the ethnic composition, 85% is European, mainly Spanish and Italian immigrants fleeing from the wars in Europe at the beginning of the last century. There was a very large immigration from those countries. Some other minor immigrations from East Asia, Europe, England, and Germany a little bit. Language is the official language is Spanish. Maybe there is a very small amount of indigenous languages such as Quechua, Mapuche, and Guarani, which you don't really hear. You maybe hear it spoken up in the northern provinces, but not definitely in Buenos Aires. English, Italian, and German are also, it's also, you can hear a little bit of it, but it's basically Spanish and then mainly English. Religious composition: 62% Catholic because of the Italian and the Spanish influence in Argentina. Others 15% evangelical, and another 23 unaffiliated or unidentified. The age distribution pretty straightforward and similar to what it's like in many other countries. With a median age of 32, but the largest part of the population are the middle-aged people, the people 54 to 64, 15 to 64 years old. Migration and diversity, as we said before, strong waves from Europe, end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th centuries. And recently, perhaps immigration from neighboring countries, Bolivia, Paraguay, strong immigration from Venezuela due to the political unrest that unfortunately that lovely country has been suffering, and a little bit from Peru and China. Regarding emigrations, not that many, but during the last few governments, young Argentines who couldn't see many opportunities in, to be able to grow and progress economically, decided to, migrate to countries, mainly Spain because of the language, some to Italy, and some to the US. So that's an overview of our demographics. So now we can go into our political and economic landscape. As you all guessed correctly, Javier Milei is our new president. He came into power, and at the end of 2023, he's been there for a year. The type of government is federal presidential. We have a bicameral Congress, the Senate and the chambers, like you see in many other countries. A judicial system, which is ruled by the Supreme Court, which is the highest authority. And then the political parties, La Libertad Avanza, which is the actual governing party, which is run by Milei. Unión por la Patria, this is a very strong, and it is the previous government. It's a Peronist center-left organization. And then you have the center-right organization, which is called Juntos por el Cambio, which former President Mauricio Macri runs, basically. These are the trends that we're seeing. Javier Milei's president. He's trying. He's putting a lot of effort into deregulate some of the regulations that have been in place for decades, and many of which were absolutely useless and were unproductive. Together with privatization and a very strict reduction in government spending. Obviously, these reductions are causing of uncomfortable situations for a large part of the citizenship, who unfortunately have been used to not working and pretending to live off government funds in the past. So he's facing some social unrest because of this. But he still has the back of most of the population, at least of the economic active population, who are asked, we're all asked, hold on, don't give in. You'll be facing a lot of pressures, but this will eventually pass. The challenges he has, other than facing all those that political unrest, is inflation. Although he's done a good job in lowering inflation. Inflation last year, it reached an incredible amount of 200%, which is it's astronomical, and he's managed to beat it down now to approximately anywhere between 40 and 50%, which is still high, compared to international standards. If we believe countries in Europe or in the US, they have an annual inflation anywhere between 5 and 7% at maximum. That's our goal. But it's going to be a long time before we can achieve that sort of stability. A few figures: gross domestic products is $600 million, which gives us an average of $13,000 per capita. And the key economic sectors are obviously agriculture, because of our enormous farmlands, soybeans, beef, wheat. We also have a fair amount of industries. Some of the leading ones are automotive. We have factories like Renault, Peugeot, General Motors, Ford. They're all present in the country. Some of the Japanese ones like Honda are also present. Oil and gas. Oil and gas is a big thing nowadays. There's a lot of activity going on. Because of the newfound oil reserves that have been appearing. And so we see a lot of local and foreign companies coming in to invest in oil and gas. Together with mining. Mining is also a big issue at the moment. Argentina is one of the, I think it's the second largest lithium reserve country. So we see a lot of investments in the lithium producing industry. Services, a little bit of finance, a little bit of banking, but not really that much. Inflation, and as I said before, it used to be over 200% in 2024, and but because of the cut in government spending, basically driven by that factor, and also the privatization and the deregulation of a lot of the economy has led to lowering the inflation rates to anywhere between 40 and 50%. It's difficult because a lot of people are very concerned about what's the devaluation of the peso against the dollar, and whenever the dollar rises, businessmen usually automatically go and try and raise prices of their products, which obviously causes a little bit of a hassle, but the government is doing a good job in dealing with that. Major trade partners: Brazil, China, the US, and the European Union. And because we are basically a huge farming country, soy products, corn, beef, lithium, and wine. We are great producers and exporters of red wines. And if I'm not wrong, I think yesterday in the news I saw that one of the wine producing companies, a company called Catena Zapata, has been voted as perhaps the best red wine producer in the world, which is something we're also proud of, apart other than our soccer and our religious.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Imports, well, basically machinery and electronics. Fuel, not so much nowadays because of these new reserves that have been found. We international trade, we're members of the Mercosur regional trade organization, which is basically an agreement with Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. I know that President Milei is trying to put in place new organizations, especially with the US, where he's quite friendly with President Trump. So I think there's something that we'll be seeing in the not too distant future. So what are our challenges? What does the future look like? Because of the economic stability, we're trying to control inflation and trying to stabilize our country. At the moment, we're in the negotiations with the International Monetary Fund, and we think we have the approval of a loan of 20 billion US, which will obviously help maintain the level of the peso at a decent standard. Control and face the social and economic and reactions because of the economic reforms which I was talking about recently. Very strong government expenditure reduction, which obviously leads to people who have never worked before and have lived off government funds. They're all complaining, pickets, riots. But I think that the government so far has been doing a good job in keeping them at bay. And potential growth areas, as I mentioned before, mining is a big issue, lithium, but other materials also, such as gold and silver. There's plenty of investments in those areas. Tech sector, yes, because of we're still fairly inexpensive for labor expenses. We see a lot of companies coming to start up IT software development in Argentina. Renewable energy is also quite an issue, both in all types, not only solar energy, but also other types of renewable energies. So this is a small conclusion. Argentina is at a critical crossroads with ambitious economic reforms, aimed at stabilizing the inflation and reviving growth. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're obviously wishing President Milei the best of luck in this enormous challenge that he faces. Okay, so let's move on to talk a little bit about the insurance market in Argentina. The total size of the insurance market is anywhere between 15 and 20 billion dollars annually. The activity is regulated by the Superintendency of Insurance, which reports to the Economy Ministry. And basically, we're involved in all lines of insurance, both property and casualty, life and employee benefits, and also reinsurance. Life insurance market takes around 20 to 25% of the total annual premiums, which leaves a lot of room for growth. And we have the typical products such as term life, whole life annuities, and group life policies. As I said, there's a low penetration due to the economic instability still in place, but we believe there will be plenty of room for growth in those areas. Then we have the non-life segments, which is the largest ones by far are auto, which is mandatory, at least auto liability is mandatory for all vehicle owners, and workers' compensation, which is also mandatory for all registered companies in Argentina. Those are the leading lines of business where in terms of premium. Properties is a big issue. Cargo is also important. Agriculture, obviously, because of the enormous farmlands in Argentina, and health insurance. And perhaps here we can make a special mention. Health insurance is not, or the private medical health system is not regulated by the insurance market. So there are no health insurance policies issued. Health is dealt with by prepaid medical services companies, which are regulated by the health ministry. And these are funded by mandatory contributions made by employers and employees alike towards these health private medical service companies, which usually cover most of the services provided by these companies. And in some cases, there may be cases where those mandatory contributions are not enough to cover the cost of those plans. But we can go into that in more detail, if someone has any further queries regarding health insurance. Reinsurance market is also very regulated. Premiums for placements that have a limit insured of under $35 million, any line of business, they have to be reinsured in the local with a local reinsurer, who can then retrocede those premiums to what we call an admitted reinsurance company, which is usually an overseas reinsurer, Swiss Re, Munich, or whatever. But they have to be specifically licensed by the Superintendency of Insurance to be able to accept reinsurance sessions out of Argentina. At the moment, there are around 70 reinsurance companies that are authorized to do so. Okay. Some of the drives that we see, regulatory strengthening by part of the superintendency. Why is this? Because, in the past, we've seen, unfortunately, many insurance companies go bankrupt because of a lack of control over their activity. In Argentina, insurance was never really a politically sensitive issue. So no one really, was really controlling the activity. And, the authorities would realize that the company was going broke when they had no cash left, which is a little bit too late. So there's a lot of strengthening going on in that sense, and more controls to be in place. Technical adoption. Well, yeah, digital platforms and insurtech stars are enhancing accessibility, but we see that mainly for personalized insurance, auto, homeowners, personal accidents. Not so much in the underwriting of corporate or commercial business, where the personal activity of brokers and agents is very much involved. Challenges, yes, high inflation. Obviously, this impacts insurance like every other activity, because we have to constantly keep updating the values insured to avoid falling, with, and avoid the penalties of underinsurance. This we see that in all lines of business, be it life, be it auto, be it property. Currency devaluation, well, that's not such a big issue as it was last year, but it's something that obviously insurers have to keep an eye on too. Important players in the market, there are many, but here we put some of them. La Caja Seguros, which is 100% owned by Assicurazioni Generali. Sancor and Federación Patronal, they are two very large mutual organizations. Federación Patronal is basically a leading auto carrier, whereas Sancor they're leading in many of the markets. Galicia Seguros, they used to be only a bank, a very large private local bank, but over recent years they have purchased a series of companies. For instance, HSBC and Prudential are companies that have been purchased by this important financial institution. Zurich, Argentina, very active in all lines of business. Provincia Seguros, state-owned company. It belongs to the province of Buenos Aires. Allianz, leading German carrier in the market. Chubb, perhaps the leading American carrier in the market. La Meridional was for many years owned by AIG. Around 4 or 5 years ago, AIG decided to move out of Argentina and some other countries, Uruguay, Chile, and I think it's Peru or one of them. And they sold their operations to the Canadian group Fairfax. But they still remain as the local representatives of AIG, and many of the international insurance programs written by AIG are funneled through and issued by La Meridional here in Argentina. Mafre, Spanish leading insurer, also important presence here. Future outlook. We've seen a little bit of this before. Insurtech, basically for personal lines. Microinsurance, not so much. Digital transformation, it's coming slowly, but it's obviously the future. And important investments and therefore important premiums we see for renewable energies, oil and gas, and mining, as I mentioned before. Risk factors. Continued economic instability may limit expansion, which obviously leads to a stronger regulatory evolution, where we see that the superintendency likely to introduce new solvency requirements to avoid chaos. Okay, and now a little bit of news about Makler. Makler is a local insurance broker owned by Ricardo Rosenthal, who was the founder of the company and is still very active. He's our president and chairman. And Makler this year has turned 40 years old. So we're planning important celebrations further down the line this year. Although there are no official figures established by the superintendency, the market sees us as perhaps the group of leading brokers behind, the Aon, the Marshes, and the Willises of the world, who are all here. We believe we'd be maybe the largest local player in the market, privately owned and family owned by the Rosenthal family. Basically, where we deal in corporate and commercial insurance. Obviously, we do have personal lines insurance, which is not our core, but we do it. And we also do a little bit of reinsurance, not directly as a reinsurance broker. We used to have a license, but we sold that a few years ago. Maybe thinking of going back into that operation, and obviously heavily involved in global regional corporate market programs, both for employee benefits and for P&C. Go on to the next slide. The lines of insurance we deal with: property and casualty, energy, oil and gas, electricity, mining, manufacturing of all types, marine, workers' comp, surety and credit, which is an important line of our business, financial risks, mergers and acquisitions. We do a little bit of risk engineering, obviously claims management, and as I mentioned before, employee benefits, affinity programs, which are part of employee benefits, mass marketing, international, and a little bit of reinsurance. We are divided basically in two commercial divisions, and obviously with the support divisions on the technical, IT, and administrative sides. But the two commercial divisions are the local division, where we have 10 people who are basically handling Argentine-created business, local companies, be it corporations or commercial size. And these 10 people, they are responsible for handling all the lines of insurance that a client may require, be it personal lines, which is very few, property and casualty, and also employee benefits. Similar on the international division, where we are 7 people, all fully bilingual, and where we service over 600 international programs. Basically, those programs are referred to us in property, liability, and marine covers. And part of our responsibility is also to further develop those clients by offering and trying to add value for their local covers, such as workers' compensation, auto, surety bonds, life insurance, and others that they may require. As I said at the beginning, we are, where we have a large global footprint with over 40 international representations, encompassing all 5 continents in the world. And obviously this gives us some advantages over some of our peers, because we have access to products and markets on a real time, which gives us a competitive advantage. We have an IT platform which is very useful, and this is used basically by our corporate and commercial clients, where they can access all the information that they require on their insurance policies. They can access copy of the policies. They can download certificates of insurance. They can see the status of the claims that they're having on any line of business. On a personal line quote note, they can have access to online quotes, basically for auto or homeowners insurance. And also personal accidents. Then we have our own BI information system. And lastly, important to mention is that we're certified by ISO 9001 for all our processes, be it commercial, claims, and administration. We've had this ever since 2012, and which makes us, we're very proud of it. Uh, well, that's a very quick overview, and happy to answer any questions that may rise. Now, if you want to send any questions further on, if something occurs, feel free to do so. But anyway, thank you also for listening.
Well, thank you, Timothy, for providing us this great overview. I think it was super interesting, like to hear like where Argentina is and some of the details where even myself I was not fully aware of it. So, but also like as you can see here, like the intention is also to like if you have new submissions, you have new business, please do not forget also outside of Argentina then they're always there for you and they're always happy to provide this actually services for you where we can implement those policies on your behalf. So please don't hesitate, or if again, if you need any advice or anything of that, so that would be great. So yeah, now it's time to really look at the Q&As. As you said, I think we look at where we are. So let's see what kind of questions do we have. So there's definitely one thing I see here right now coming up. So yeah, like one question from my side was, I thought it was very interesting from the reinsurance side, Timothy, you were referring to. So my question to you would be, what is there like a similar scheme in Argentina like we are used to from Brazil with the IRB, right? Where there is like there used to be a mandated kind of percentage. So in other words, like a almost mandatory reinsurance, which means you cannot see the 100% back unless you go to this reinsurance body.
No, that is not the case. What, as I said, what is mandatory is that any premiums of any line of business for a risk that has a limit insured of below $35 million, that has to be ceded to a locally established reinsurance company, which could belong to to any organization. Then that local reinsurance company must retain at least some portion of the risk. And that portion of the risk can be as low as, and this sounds ridiculous, 0.01%. And then can retrocede the rest to an admitted insurer. But again, those admitted insurers have to be specifically licensed by the Superintendency of Insurance to be able to operate.
So
But
that's
percentage
great.
it can be 10, 100, or 0.01, whatever.
No, I really appreciate the clarification because, like, I know that a lot of us we have always the question about reinsurance, which in quite a few countries, again, Brazil, China, another one where they mandated reinsurance portions for it. And now I see there's another question. So actually, from one of our attendants here, have you seen any significant investment inflow from the RIGI investment promotion scheme? If so, what countries does the investment scheme stem from?
Yes, we have seen some investments, but they're basically aimed at the mining and the oil and gas industries. Mining, we see investments from Canada, we see investments from Australia. We have a very large investment, and who's currently a client of ours from Korea in the lithium mining business. We also see some investment coming from the US, not as much as the other countries, but yes, they also do.
Great, that's perfect. So we actually took care of that. So then there's another question I see actually popping up here, and that's a little bit more related to the EB side of the business, which I think is also very interesting in general. So I think you explained very well that more or less you have a basic social security system, right, which takes care of health insurance. It goes through like probably it sounds to me like universal healthcare, and then you have a supplemental system, which again companies can purchase additional supplemental insurance for that. So one question here I just received was, well, in other Latin American countries, there is often an issue with drug accessibility, such as cancer drugs or like other like drugs for severe diseases. Do you experience something similar and would do like the supplemental health insurance coverages provide a stopgap for that if you experience
Yes, we
such a thing.
do experience similar situations, and these prepaid medical services, they do cover at least a percentage of those costs. But what usually happens is when a client of theirs, when they fill in the health declaration forms and are they need to have access to those drugs, these prepaid medical companies will charge an extra premium, not the typical tariff that they have, that they will charge. They cannot deny coverage, but they will definitely charge an extra premium, which will depend on the gravity of the disease or the illness as monitored by some of their medical doctors.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. There's one more question here from the PNC side, which
Yeah.
I think also something like I also would be interested to hear from you is like from the workers' compensation side. So I think you explained very well that like a lot of your clients are part of international programs. So as in some countries, but I believe like I'm not sure like about Argentina. So one of the question is how does Makler deal or how is typically the composition for regarding workers' comp? Is that part of the international program, or would that
No,
be placed
no, it's
standalone?
not. No, it's standalone because this is specifically regulated. There is a special
Mhm.
law for workers' compensation,
I see.
where coverage is designed and regulated by the government, and it's the same for all carriers in the market. No carrier can say, look, I'm offering this and that coverage, which is different to what has been authorized by the government. What the carriers can do is set their own rates. They're free to set the rates that they believe is necessary to be able to cover the expected claims outlook for that client, or because of their experience, because of certain activities they're familiar with, let's say typical dangerous activities such as fishing, will pay a much higher rate than someone in the banking activity. But each carrier is free to set the rates, but coverage is the same for everybody.
Great. No, that's really answers the questions. Very, very helpful for, I think, for us to know and also for our partners here who place business down in Argentina. And I think there's actually time for one last question, which I think probably is a very good one. And it's like what is in general, the outlook? And in particular, it seems like you mentioned that I think Javier Milei and Donald Trump have a very good relationship. So what is your expectation in terms of investments, like in terms of the US-Argentina relationship in particular, but also with relations to maybe EU or China investments within the future? How do you expect like things
Well,
to go over the next 2 or 3 years?
if he keeps his cool, and this Rigi agreement, which benefits and has basically tax benefits for large investors, stays in place, and he managed to control the the trade unions. Uh, Basically, the trade unions, which are they're all lined up with the opposing party, which the players is left them. But if he managed to get a grip on them, I think the outlook for Argentina is absolutely great. Because we have I think, all the necessary natural resources that any country would need. We have an extraordinarily talented management staff and an educated population. So if we get our political or our politicians to operate decently, I think the outlook is going to be absolutely fantastic. Or we're very optimistic about it.
Great. Well, then let's finish it on the high note. So we're like hoping that a lot of new investments flow into Argentina. I think it's good for you. It's good for all of us, right? So we're going to have a lot of business to ensure, and like we're definitely like wish you the best of luck, like within the future. And Timothy, again, thank you very much for providing us with this great overview today. And also thank all of you attendees, everybody from our TSC member society here, associations here, different parts around the world to tune in today. And hope to see you soon, either at the RIMS or at our Global Network Forum in Hamburg. So all the best and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.